Greetings from Mikki, Aurora, and from me. What's really interesting to me is, as somebody who's written about all of them, is how Meghan Markle has tried to hijack what the King did at Highgrove, and to a lesser extent the Queen did at Buckingham Palace with the palace shop.
Yes.
And they very successfully merged things, built in a very dignified and a very positive way, really, where every penny goes back to the cause. And she thought, oh, well, I'm going to steal that idea, but it's not going to be for the cause. Well, it's my cause. And it's flopped, and it's systematically flopped.
It has, and as you said, the Queen did it obviously with the palace shot, and that has done well, and again, it's popular. But I think, obviously, I guess Meghan thought she could do something similar, but
well, she's tried to. She's not actually fessed up, as they would say nowadays. She's tried to act as if she hasn't tried to hijack the idea and dress it up in Gwyneth Paltrow's clothes. But she's really tried a combination, and it's failed. But what I find interesting about this book as well is that you were allowed to write it, because Simon Berry wasn't allowed to write his, Wendy Barry wasn't allowed to write hers, and they weren't published in this country, and yours has been. And I suspect it's because they knew they could trust you.
I think so, and I'm very lucky, and I feel very grateful to have that trust and respect. And as you said, I mean, if they wanted to at any point, they can stop a book. Of course they can, and they have done. So I feel very lucky that I've been able to be allowed to do this, to be able to have it done and to publish it. And hopefully, it's, some people have said to me, I hope you agree, it's great PR as well. It's a nice bit of PR, obviously for myself, but hopefully for the family as well. Not that they need any PR, because they do, the work they do and everything speaks for itself.
Yes, but also an awful lot of people speak for them and don't necessarily speak the truth.
Well, that's what I find frustrating. Do you know, we both do documentaries, and what frustrates me with some of the documentaries, though, if there's something I can't answer, I won't answer it. Or if it's risky, I'll say, look, can we come up with a different way of doing this? And there's been one or two things that I refuse to answer. I'll say, I can't talk about that. It's just not right. And as you said, somebody else will be quite happy to do that. And I think it's sad. You kind of think, I don't know. It's just, if I was in a room with the King or Queen, I can hold my head high up and I'm not embarrassed, because I know I've always done things by the book, literally. With other people, I think, I don't know how they can do some of the things they do, and there's always...
Well, because they don't have a conscience or scruples. I mean, I see both sides of the coin, because I write on the royal family, but also I've employed people and I've had people betray my trust. And, it's really pretty ghastly when you've been really nice and kind and decent to someone, and they then spin and twist and turn what you've done. I mean, 11 times out of 10, it's done for the money or for some worldly gain and advantage. And you have such a feeling of betrayal, and I don't know how some of these people live with themselves. And they take the most innocent anodyne things and twist them. I mean, I'll use an example that's very topical at the moment. In the last few days, there's been Paul Burrell's serialization of his book. And they're trying to make out that he molested verbally Diana. And he might well have made a joke, because he had a raunchy sense of humour. But you will know that people in royal circles and aristocratic circles are very raunchy. And in fact, it's the most expensive of humour. And, you know, so if Fayed did say, oh, well, I'd love you to marry my son because I'll get first dibs sort of thing, it wasn't to molest. I mean, she would never have thought it was to molest.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, it's been presented as something horrifying, and that he was taking advantage and he was disrespecting her. And of course, what it then makes people subliminally come to the conclusion is, what an opportunist Diana was, because if she was so outraged, why is she going on cruises with Mohammed Fayed?
Yeah, as you said, there's always a bit of humour, and I think I didn't know him, but Mohammed Fayed, you know, he definitely had a bit of we know he had charisma, and he, you know, something that had been said, as you said, it was taken as a with a pinch of salt kind of thing. And there's so many things that we could say, you know. Can you imagine, you know, the amount of times you could turn around and say, oh, and blow something out of proportion for no reason, which is, you know, what we're kind of talking about.
Well, the reason, of course, is money.
Well, yeah.
There is always a reason. Or attention. Attention, it's not always money, it's attention as well. And then they hope, if they get enough attention, they'll dine out on it forever and be stars in their little constellation for a while. Or alternatively, that they can then spin it into making money.
I think also, you know, it's difficult because, you know, when you're doing a book, you know, obviously you want to be able to share stories. And of course we want to share stories, but at the same time, you know, what I would never do, this is just me, was put words in people's mouths that certainly that couldn't respond on those. You know, everybody.
Well, you didn't. You hadn't twisted anything.
No, and I certainly would never do that, because there's no reason to do that. You know, there's certainly no reason to do it. And I mean, I think I'm right in saying this book's been really successful, and it's got a lot of attention. It's got a lot of media attention, for many reasons. But I want to say overall positive reasons. That was the interesting thing when I did it. I remember kind of thinking, it's not that. I personally wouldn't class it as, you know, anything outrageous or gossipy. And I remember kind of thinking, but is it even going to be of interest? But
it is informative, may I say. It's very informative.
That's what the publisher said to me.
You are very informative, and if people are interested in the way of life and what these people truly are like, you are very informative. And I mean, for instance, not in terms of the king or the Queen, but when you mention about Henrietta Bedford and what fruity language she has, you know, of course, anybody who, let me rephrase that and say, when I was in the jungle, people couldn't believe that I said things like, oh, don't give a flying.
Yeah.
You know, and how could she? She's a lady. I mean, every lady says things like that, you know, and many a princess too. And we're not going to mention the Princess Royal, absolutely not.
But I remember a Country House, you know, the TV season, and that's what I remember. But the Henrietta Bedford was that she spoke her mind, which I loved, and that was true to form. That's what I witnessed, and it's the same, you know, with other members of the family. I'm sharing things that we know of them, or that. But as you said, when I say it's not gossip, as you said, the informative side, I do tell a story that maybe a lot of people don't know about what it is like from a Butler's point of view, but it's done from a positive side. It doesn't say it's not. I know I've had so many. I mean, you only have to look at the comments online from people who have read it, and they say they get given a glimpse of something that they knew nothing about, or the characters. You know, obviously I've been into details about the personalities and about each of them having what kind of humour they've got. And again, even though people might have thought they knew it, when they read it, it gives them a whole entire new idea of them. I mean, the comments, I've been reading comments, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, the book reviews and things, and they've been amazing. I mean, really amazing that obviously people are enjoying it. And I love it when people say, I started reading your book and I can't put it down. And you think, wow, if that makes me happy, because I think at least I know that people are enjoying it.
Also, you touched upon a very important difference between William and Harry, which is that William is far more measured, far more watchful, far more considered, and far more guarded than Harry. Harry leads with, well, let's be polite and say his heart.
Yeah.
And while William is more skeptical, but you rarely give a very good insight into the totally different approaches of the two brothers. And also, you give a really good insight into the quality of the relationship, not only between the brothers as it used to be, but also with Catherine. And I mean, you confirmed an awful lot to me, but I mean, an awful lot of the public wouldn't know anything about. So they're virginal, so to speak. And I thought that I actually have to tell you, now that, because Harry and William used to play with my boys at polo, and my boys are a good 10, 12 years younger than them. So I had a very positive view of them when they were all much younger, because really for teenagers and boys in their early 20s to be playing with young boys, it's, I thought that's really nice of them.
Yeah.
But in recent years, I've come to realize that Harry has a real mean streak. And you don't have to comment if you don't want to, but I've observed it, and I've actually been able to trace it back to when he was very young, which at the time eluded me totally, because I thought, oh, he's just a mischievous little boy, or then he's, a whatever teenager, and you just sort of discount it because, but what he did to you when he first met you, waterbombing you, I mean, I actually thought when I was reading it, I thought, on one level, it's sort of physical banter. But then I thought on another level, hang on a second. I mean, he wasn't exactly 13 or 11.
No, not at all.
And I thought...
Practical joker.
Yes, but I think the point I'm trying to make is that what I now know about Harry as a result of all that we have seen him reveal about himself is that I think what you regard as just practical joking, I actually think he is indicative of a mean streak. Don't answer. I don't expect you to answer. I don't want you to answer. I don't want to compromise you. But I did think, and I thought, is that the way that, because he would have been, about 19 or 20 at the time?
Yeah, 19 I think, 19, yeah.
That. So he was old enough, really, that, I mean, I'm sorry, you don't waterbomb the butler and think it's funny. That was my feeling, and so. But putting that aside, you have very fond memories of William, Harry, and Catherine, and as a trio as well.
Who all got on. I mean, I said recently that Harry and Catherine got on so well that when William and Catherine split up, I wondered if Harry and Catherine might get together.
Really?
I wondered that. I'm not saying that was ever in Catherine's mind. It was just they were best friends and they got on. They spent a lot of time together. And I did wonder at one point. I wonder if William does go on and find somebody else. I wonder if Harry might, which is not unusual in royal circles. It's not unusual for that kind of thing. I mean, if you look at historically, it's
Oh, darling, in my own family, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I know people who've gone from one sibling to another.
Exactly. So that's what I remember thinking at the time. But obviously, history had a different idea.
Yes. But it's interesting because he has rewritten history so totally that you would have thought that he and Catherine were never close. They never particularly got along. He had never said she was a sister he'd never had, that she was always this cold and aloof creature, but she's not.
No.
I know this through, well, it doesn't matter how I know it, but I know that she's warm, kind, loving, very intelligent, very accommodating, not particularly vibrant as a personality, so much as sweet and gentle. Pippa was the one with the bigger personality, her sister. That, I mean, the way she's described now is somebody who's cold and aloof, and everybody who knows her well, and you knew her well, so tell me if this bears out with your observation. She's actually a very warm, kind, loving person.
Yeah, that's what I remember of her. I just remember being a fun, down to earth, as you said, warm, caring, kind, totally. And, I must admit, Harry's book I didn't actually read. I listened to some of it.
You didn't read it?
No, I listened to some on Audible.
I waded through it, my dear. I'm still trying to get rid of the stench.
but the thing about hearing about things that you said about other family members, it just, it's what the Queen said, the late Queen, your recollections may differ, and that's a...
No, she said may vary.
May vary.
But how do you reconcile what you have been told, he said, with what you observed and experienced, and of him, because he's undergone a total personality change, hasn't he?
Yeah, totally. Well, I've always said that the Harry now is not one that I remember or knew back then. Very different character, very different. And of course, everyone, I suppose as you get older, people change, but not a huge amount. You still...
People don't have a total flip of personality unless there's something traumatic that happens.
Yeah.
Like Iago whispering in Othello's ear about Desdemona.
Yeah.
If you've studied your Othello. And but what do you think as a dedicated royalist? What do you think is... Do you see, and do you have any ideas of how this situation could be resolved?
No, because the thing about the families, a big part is trust, even between each other. Trust is a big thing, and the fact that's been broken and breached on quite a few occasions, I don't quite know how it's resolved. I do believe that the king would want to resolve it. I do think that, and the reason I think it, but I'm going back to my memories of how it used to be. He was very close to him, and
he was closer to Harry than he was to William.
I think so. I think he was. I think he was closer.
There was an easier affinity.
I think it's because William knew what he's doing. He's got a focus. Harry was, and I think maybe the king just felt a bit more. Not that he loved him more, just maybe a little bit more protective, if you like. And now that's
also Harry was a superficially easier personality.
Yeah.
William is a more considered personality, a more quieter, more let me look and assess and see. He's not as easygoing as Harry. And William is a more doer personality. He's a more Scottish personality than Harry.
Yeah, he is. I agree with you. He is. And with Harry's he's got a different, back then, had a very different kind of fun way about him. So now I'm wondering if the king, I think part of me thinks the king will probably think, of course it'd be great to resolve this and just to stop all this nonsense, but then there must be another part of him that's thinking, but what, how does it resolve? How does it end? Because every time that they talk about olive branches, and there's been olive branches before, and whenever there's an olive branch, it seems to kind of get thrown back in his face a little bit. So,
well, I have to say, I think half those olive branches are inventions of the press.
yeah,
Because they're keeping the story going, and they're actually casting by saying, oh, Harry wants everybody to move on, and so let's have the prodigal son back. They forget the parable of the prodigal son. The prodigal son repented. The prodigal son said to his father, I realize I've done something wrong. Take me back and I will be the lowest of your servants. Harry has said, well, if you're going to have me back, you're going to have to apologize to me for things I did to you. And but I think the press, well, they need content, they need drama, and I don't think it actually, I think it has done a lot of harm, but I think the public is now so wary of the whole thing that I think the public really are sick and tired of hearing about these wretched olive branches. I mean, according to the press, Harry has waved more olive branches at the family as he was slapping them on the face with the olive branches than a whole grove of olive, a whole olive grove. And I think, but I don't know what you think, but I actually think in a funny sort of way, it's not been as damaging to the family as some people think, because it has created a foil for and shown the world how dutiful the rest of the family is. And how, I mean, most royal life is really dull and boring. I mean, the glamorous occasions are maybe 2%.
Yes. Oh, totally. And that's what I remember about working there. People used to say, what a glamorous kind of lifestyle. And I'm thinking, it is, but it's only, as you just said, there's a small percentage that you think, well, this is very glamorous lifestyle, because it's not quite like that. It isn't like that. Day to day, you just go on with the job. And even when it is glamorous, for example, the Queen's dinner at Kew Palace, which was a huge occasion with Prince Philip, but because I was on the inside, I didn't witness any of it. So I remember people messaging me and having phone calls, and even my mum, all excited about it. And because I was involved in it, I didn't have the same excitement. Isn't it strange? Didn't have the same excitement.
But you see, I get it, because, for instance, if I'm chairing a ball and I'm being the hostess, I mean, okay, I'm in a tiara and I'm in a ball gown and I look very glamorous, but I'm on the job. I'm working.
Yeah.
And I'm actually sort of, doing what you've got to do when you're from one to the other, and you're on the go the whole time, and you're not chilling and let me enjoy myself.
Not at all.
And so people may look and think, oh, this is all so fabulous and glamorous and so beautiful. Well, the other people may find it, the guests will find it beautiful, but the hosts and their supportive staff, which is what you were, are actually on the job the whole time. Mm-hmm. They can't lower their guard. They can't decide, oh, well, I'm bored now, so I'm going to go, or I decided my back is slightly hurting me, so I'm just going to leave everybody in the lurch. And don't you think there's that element to not only royal life but grand life?
Yeah, and it's almost having to put on, dare I say, a kind of act. You're having to play a part and stick to it as well, even though, and on the outside one's looking, isn't that isn't that great fun? But the reality is, when you're there doing it, it can be bloody
well, it's a
hard work.
performance. Actually, I hesitate to say it's an act, because I think it's a performance that if you do it properly, you're invested and it's genuine.
Yes.
Well, an act would be what Meghan does.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
No, I
it's
understand
true.
what you're saying, yeah.
But say the way the late Queen did it, it was never an act, but it is a performance. And you don't lower your guard. You dare not lower your guard for a moment, because you are on show. I mean, it's like it's a choreographed dance thing, and it's when the band strikes up, you kick up your foot, and if you don't do it, and you're out of kilter with the music, or rather, to put it less perfunctorily, with the expectations, it jars. So you have to be sincerely invested in it, don't you?
Yeah.
And
you definitely do, and that's what's great with, the Royals. They are invested into what they do. You can see that, and I've always, I think I even said in the book, they work hard. I remember the King, apart from what the public don't see, is that he'd be up early in the morning working away. He'd be the last person going to bed at night working away. They don't get to see that part of it, where I did, and so how hard they work.
And the Queen used to do that as well. And she'd take her she'd take her red boxes to bed.
Yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. And that's dedication, because most people go to bed, that's it. You think most people 9 to 5 for most people, where they're 9 to 5. That'd be an impossibility. How could you couldn't do the job of being a royal if that was your hours? It'd be impossible.
Well, it's a 24/7 occupation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's why Meghan wanted to leave, because she didn't have the discipline, she didn't have the
freedom, I suppose, if you want to say that.
She didn't have the interest either. She's not about public service, she's about self-service. And you really have to, if you're or even say the Bedfords, they have to live their existence 24/7, because if you can't decide, I'll let things slide today, and something important is coming, we're going to let it slide, because it can result in disaster. There has to be, in any job, and I think any vocation would be a better way of putting it, there has to be dedication, doesn't there, and commitment.
Yeah, and especially,
But you as a butler have to be committed 24/7. You wake up in the morning and you think, I really would prefer to pour the orange juice down everybody's bodies. But you can't do that.
And also, I remember, which is easier back then than now, but I remember, we used to get up, it depends, but we were Sandra Memorial, you'd be up at 6:30 in the morning, if not earlier, to be able to use the shower rooms. And then you do your whole day. You might get a few hours off in the afternoon, which was amazing. But even then you might not sleep, because especially in Scotland, you want to go and explore. And then you work right through until about 11:30 at night. And then what we used to do, we would then all have drinks. We'd all get invited into one of the housekeeper's room, or the staff room or somewhere, and they would have drinks or someone's home even, so one of the estates cottages, and you drink maybe till 1:30, 2 in the morning. Then you go to bed, and then you start all over again at 6:30. I don't know how we got the energy, or we got the drive to do it, but then we did it, and we did a successful day as well.
But of course, what comes across in this book as well is how intensive things are at times, but it's intermittent intensivity, because it's not always intensive, is it?
No, it's not. Because even though it can be long hours, it can be fun, and it can be, it's not that difficult. Yes, when they've got house parties, things it's full on, but a lot of the time it'll be just him or just them, or William and Catherine. And as I talk about in the book, looking after them was really easy. So when I was on duty and they were there, it was it was easy. I didn't even have to put a uniform on. I just used to wear my polo shirt with the Prince of Wales logo and and a pair of jeans. You know, it was very informal, very, very informal. So it could be hard work, but it could also just be very relaxed and very chilled.
So I'm going to wrap this up by asking you, do you recommend that people should relish the King and Queen? Because, we had, actually, before wrapping, Camilla, because I don't know if you know it, her brother was an old beau of mine.
No, I
from
didn't know
before
that.
I got married.
I didn't know that. I met him.
Mark.
And Matt used to come to Woburn as well because of the elephants.
Yes, that's right.
Because of the elephants.
Yeah.
Really nice. Was really nice.
He was a great guy.
Really nice guy.
But the Shands are a lovely family, and she's, all the Shands are very warm, kind, down to earth.
The thing I liked about her, and it makes me sad when people attack her or go for her and it's happening again recently. Somebody's having a go, and I hate it because she's one of the kindest people you could meet. She's genuine. She's funny. She's a great support to him. She's a great support to the family. She does, she gets on with the job even though it was never meant to be for her. She's there because she loves him. That's why she's there, and yet she comes under fire from so many people and former staff members who didn't even know her, which really annoys me.
That's interesting. Why do you think they do it? For the moolah?
For the attention. I mean, I'm talking about it because she's in my book, but I actually knew her. I liked her. I got on with her. I was very proud to have an association with her. I mean, I talk about in the book about getting to dance with Queen Elizabeth II. That wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Queen Camilla, because she danced with me. We had a dance on our own. And
she organised the whole thing.
And she organised it. So she's
kind.
She's very kind. And so when someone is nasty or just not nice about her, there's no reason for it. And I always say to people, we're all entitled to our own opinions. We're all entitled to make our own minds. But it's really unfair judging somebody that you don't know. In all walks of life, you should get to know. Sometimes you can't, of course you can't. But you should get to know these people before you.
Well, what I've always found very disturbing about public figures is how many people just trash them for no justifiable reason. 1 second. Oh, Mikki, there's a plane. Mikki, sorry, Aurora. Sorry, it's Aurora. Aurora. So, what I find really disturbing about the reaction to some people who are knocking people in the public eye is it's like animals baying in a pack, like a pack of wolves just baying, and without any justification, just because they enjoy being vicious. And it's without merit, it's without justice, it's just inexplicable in some ways, and they either do it for, as you say, attention, or sometimes for money.
For money, yeah.
Yeah,
and
Camilla has been can I just cut you? Camilla has been a very convenient scapegoat for many years. And I understand how some of it has come about. Because, Diana really demonized Camilla for her own security, and so that she would be able to walk with her privileges. Because I don't know if you know, or if you remember, my first Diana biography started out as an authorized biography, a fundraiser for 3 of my charities, which were 3 of her charities. And she green-lighted it, and I went into the palace and I saw Dicky Arbiter, blah. And then she realized that it was going to be actually a great opportunity for her to get out, because she wanted to be rid of being married to the king, and she had visions of a happy marriage in a beautiful palace with a daughter and some guy who was going to worship her, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not knocking it,
No.
nice romantic things. But she, at first, was very firm about the fact that she and the king were just very incompatible, and that he had allowed her to have her private life, and she was perfectly happy for him to have his.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, I always suspected she went back and talked to one of the many people she was always talking to, and realized, well, the way to do this is to trash Charles and use Camilla and Camilla's existence. She wasn't using any of the many other men that she had, because he had Camilla, she had Will Carling, James Hewitt. Need I go on? Let's just Hajnat Khan, Oliver Hoare. I mean, and at any given time, the latest one that she was in love with and wanted to visualize marrying, when everything was going well, it was fine, and she was happy, and Charles was fine, and Camilla was fine. And then when things went a little bit awry, she would, everybody's to blame but me. But I think by the time she died, in fact, I know by the time she died, she'd had a sea change, and she accepted the fact that Charles would marry Camilla, and she was fine about it all. And which brings me to because you were there for the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually saw Harry and William being very positive to and about Camilla.
Yeah, and I witnessed that. I saw the kind of antics, the fun behind the scenes. I saw the joke and the humour. I watched Harry and William get the car ready, decorated it, chased the car off as they left, waving, shouting after them. All these things you would never do. Well, I wouldn't do if you didn't like the person. That's just my opinion. So it's very strange.
But you had no indication from Harry that he disliked Camilla.
None at all. And I've seen some photos actually the other day from the wedding, and you can see everyone was very happy. So again, it's all a bit confused as to why this has all happened.
Well, we know why it's happened. We know why it's happened. And again, it comes back to the fact that the narrative changes when it suits the interests of someone to change it. But I think it's so unfair on Camilla and on Charles, and really on William as well, because it puts everybody in an invidious position, don't you think?
I think so, I really do. And it is unfair. It's really unfair. So, that's why, again, going forward, I don't quite see how they'll get around this trust issue, because there is definitely a trust issue, quite rightly as well,
Well, you can't trust somebody who's betrayed you.
No.
So, Grant, what do you make of Paul Burrell coming out with those bizarre comments about Camilla?
Well, I saw in the press, and I'm going with what I've seen, and apparently he has said which is where he says that not my queen, referring to Camilla, which I think is very sad, because again, I'm sure he's I don't know if he had much contact with her. I mean, I doubt very little, but
he's never had any contact of any significance with her.
So how would he, he's judging her, which is what makes me sad with people when they judge somebody but they've never actually met. And, it's almost like somebody criticising or saying something.
But he's picking up he's picking up a cause on, and he's really picking up a cudgel on Diana's behalf that she had parked before she died, which I find ironic because she had come around to the fact that Charles would marry Camilla and that she was hopefully going to end up with her own happy marriage. And she was fine about it. So why all of a sudden is he coming up with this save to sell a book?
I mean, I was under the impression as well that they were on good terms before Princess Diana died. That's what I heard from my contacts. So it is all very strange, and it's sad as well because there is no reason to see it. And as I said, she's a really nice, she's an amazing lady. She's done. So, she's picked up, her husband's been seriously ill, she's picked up the kind of duties and,
and also she's not young. I mean, she's batting 80.
Yeah. So she's taken that on. So I think it's sad that, if that is what he said, if he has said it, it's very strange and very, very sad. And also what's confusing, I mean, as you know, this is the one time I'm planning on doing a kind of book, and I've noticed comments, kind of saying that it's an ongoing thing. And I remember watching a documentary with him a few years back. I say a documentary, it was a show, and I think it was some sort of, I can't remember what a hypnotherapist or something. It was something, it was some kind of show where they were kind of talking to him about, not a hypnotherapist, it was a show where they were talking to him about, trials and tribulations or something, and they were trying to convince him to, it's not healthy. You've got to stay positive and move away from this and, focus on other, do what he's doing, but, be positive and everything. And I remember watching it, I think he kind of said he was going to move away from, which is not easy to do, but stop talking about Diana and move away and everything. And that never ever happened. And of course, I get it. I do understand that, he wants to share his memories and experiences, and that's fine. But I just don't see why you have to be negative.
And nasty, not even negative, nasty, and unnecessarily nasty, and about somebody who she's never been nasty to him, and Camilla, she's never been nasty to him. She's never harmed him at all, and Diana had moved on. It's
very bizarre.
It also means he's trying to sell a book.
Which I understand, of course I understand, but at the same time, as I know from my experience, you can do that on a positive footing. That's my experience.
And you have done it positively.
Thank you.
I think though, that's a totally different subject, and I don't think we should get into it because it's not a part of this book. And I want everybody who has any interest in the subject to buy this book. If you could buy it today, tomorrow, or day after tomorrow, that would be wonderful. And on that note, I'm going to say, Grant, thank you so much.
Thank you. Can I say it's huge praise from such a respected author to even have read this, and so thank you. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's good to see you.
Likewise. Let's not leave it so long the next time.
No. Okay, my love.
Thank you.
God bless. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this. If you have, please remember to keep the questions and comments coming in. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and take good care. Bye-bye.